All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Political Matrix News. This is Scott Miller and my good buddy and partner there, Greg Fink.
How y'all
Who I,
doing?
for some reason, keep trying to call him Greg Evers, but
You got Greg on the mind.
I got Greg Evers on the mind for sure. And Greg Evers was a state senator in Florida. He was, that I was very close to. Anyway, yeah, the news just keeps rolling along. You and I talked not that long ago. You and I talked about this story that was just a little blip on the radar at the time, but it was a story about how the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, had actually made a bunch of fake IDs that they were going to ship to the United States and millions, and were going to use these IDs to vote. And the way this would work is, number one, they were taking user data from TikTok, which everyone warned them everyone warned the world that could be a possibility. And the Democrats all would rather hate on Trump than recognize a real danger. And so they took that data, and then they got some of the publicly available databases of voters, and they just played match and went to find voters for whom they could create IDs and then send people out to vote for Biden. Now, and the worst part is, now I don't know if the story, if it ever happened. Like, I know that the Chinese government, I wholeheartedly believe the story that the Chinese government tried to do it.
Right.
Whether or not they actually executed it, I personally would like to see some
Proof on that.
some of the names that they made the IDs for, and some voting records to show that those people voted during the election.
I agree. I know, according to Rasmussen, 48% of the people actually think that there should be a special prosecutor to actually start digging into this and taking a look at it.
I'll tell you, if ever there was anything that warranted a special prosecutor, that does. Not these political lawfare little craps, so they can try to keep their opponents in a negative light in the news for months and months and months. This is something that warrants a special
You mean
prosecutor.
like a phone call to Ukraine or something that resulted in impeachment?
It's just some goofy stuff. I mean, they're so desperate. They're
So
so
petty.
desperate for
So
for a
childish.
gotcha moment. It's
Exactly.
killing me. I mean, they're so desperate they will take anything that even begins to resemble a gotcha moment, with just praying that it might catch, get traction, and then woohoo, the orange man's gone. That's all they care about.
I think so. We're in a clickbait world, and so I mean, the whole idea here is that everything is all about clickbait, and this is your quick response and quick impulse of satisfaction. That we got him, realizing that they did not get him. They didn't get anybody.
They successfully captured your attention, and that's all that they needed.
Exactly.
Because they want you to click on there and then give them some views, and I'm sure they get a little money for views. I mean, depending on what channel. I don't think the elected officials get any money for views, but there's plenty of people around them that are non-elected officials, and they'll get the views, and then the elected officials will get the opportunity to fundraise off this narrative, and that's all they care about.
I was telling somebody today that political fundraising is almost turning into like a slot machine at a casino. They don't care how big the donation is; they just want the volume. I mean, and truth be told, I mean, you and I are both in the business. I agree with that, But the thing is that the message has to be right. And this whole idea of deceiving people to fundraise, is totally wrong.
Well, the thing is that you get so vested in this in these narratives. They're just fundraising narratives. It's me versus it. Versus that evil Democrat.
Exactly.
After a while, I've spent so much time telling you, more and more and more how bad of a person that Democrat is, and now I need to work with him for something. Well, I can't really do that, because I'll walk that back. All of a sudden, my people, the people that have been supporting me, now all of a sudden they're not going to. So I'm so vested in this thing that I can't do it. That's the problem that the Democrats and the Republicans have is that they get so vested in these fundraising narratives that solving problems never even enters anyone's mind.
I mean, you have that whole issue right now with the whole big beautiful bill argument. I mean, you got Chip Roy, Representative Roy from Texas, attacking Murkowski in Alaska for wanting to get some, deals done for Alaskan hospitals. He's calling it a Medicaid fraud scandal or Medicaid money laundering scandal because she's just trying to help out some of the rural hospitals in Alaska with not being penalized on the Medicaid issue that's in the bill.
I mean, is there anything but rural hospitals in Alaska?
Exactly. I mean, but she's actually looking out for her voters.
Sure.
And Chip Roy is saying, this is money laundering. This is a big scheme. I mean, everybody just has this here whole attack, and nobody's really looking. I think you and I were talking about that before the show, and this whole big bill here with Congress. Nobody's really talking about what the real issues are here.
You hear a lot of people rendering judgments on the bill, but I haven't heard a single person quote a single line from that bill.
How many of them actually read it?
I, if they've done anything, they've had some staff assistant find them a bullet point that they can kind of read half of, because if you read the whole thing, it mitigates, the impact of it.
I mean, there's an MSNBC article right now at the top of MSNBC.com saying that 12 million Americans are going to be kicked off of Medicaid automatically. Now, granted, there are some people on Medicaid that shouldn't be on Medicaid. There's a lot of immigrants and people who are here illegally that are on Medicaid. I'm sure they'll be kicked off. There's also quite a few people here who are able-bodied workers who are not, who are on Medicaid. I mean, it was originally meant for disabled, for the low income, and for people who were not able to have their own health insurance on their own because of their income or their disability, primarily women and children,
Yeah.
not men
Well,
who
regardless,
are
I
able
mean,
bodied.
there are a lot of women that don't need it too. I mean,
Exactly. There's a lot of
they're
women. You're right.
completely able-bodied and they're able to get up and go to work just like I do.
Yeah, they are. And the whole thing is, I mean, once that gets fixed, it's going to free up a lot more Medicaid dollars for the real people. Because I know a lot of people who are disabled and who are getting cut, and their assessments and it's not being cut because of Trump. It's being cut because it's being sucked out of a vacuum to California and to New York, and where all the other illegals are taking the Medicaid funding. People keep on thinking Medicaid is each state controls its own funding. No, each state gets their funding by the federal government. Therefore,
They are custodians of the federal money, and they're the ones that manage the program in their state for the
exactly.
federal government.
People keep on wanting to blame DeSantis or they want to blame Newsom or they want to play whoever your state governor is for the Medicaid shortcomings or whatever. It all starts in D.C. The primary I think that most of the blame goes to California because California has 80% of all the illegals and everything else.
Well, far and away the largest state, but also the most liberal policies of to whom they give the aid.
Medicaid too.
Yeah, Medicaid. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, and the food
I mean,
stamps along with it.
they're bankrupting their own. Medi-Cal. They're bankrupting Medi-Cal. I mean, let alone dang Medicaid.
I mean, when you talk about food stamps and you talk about all the other things that the low income people really do need and the disabled people really do need that they're being shorted on. They're being shorted on all this stuff here, mainly the last 5 or 6 years. That's when all the influx, people haven't paid attention to the border, that's when all the influx came in. That's when the shorting started. Maybe we should do some math and do some realization that this border here right now that's only letting 200 people in a day as opposed to several thousand a day as it was just a year or two ago.
Well, I'll tell you
That'll
what
make a big
right now.
difference.
I'll tell you right now, and I want to preface this by saying that I'm divorced. Okay, but I will say this: that between the immigration policies and the worship of single parent families, you've got two Democrat policies where, and look, like I said, I'm divorced. Stuff happens. I get it. But the Democrats have taken this off to a whole nother level to the point where they don't even encourage people to try to work things out. You know, that they are desperate to worship these poor single mothers. And look, I know people have tough times, but they're not heroes. They're people who are in a tragic situation, but they're not heroes. Now, they're not bad people either. So I don't want to demonize them, but don't worship them either. Just recognize the situation for what it is. They're in a tragic situation, and they need our support to get them out of that situation. And the situation isn't poverty. The situation is single parenthood.
Exactly.
So everyone that's people in single parent families are 80% more likely to live in poverty than people who are in two parent families. So between the single parent families and all the illegal aliens that they've imported, is it a wonder that Medicaid is overloaded?
I wonder to me. It's simple math.
It is
For some
simple
reason,
math.
nobody's gotten the math figured out. They keep thinking that we're just supposed to just keep on finding the golden goose, finding the golden eggs. There are no more golden gooses or golden geese. There are no more golden eggs.
And then you got
Gravy trains.
on the opposite side of the country, you've got New York trying to literally elect a socialist. I thought that who was the guy before Eric Adams?
Blasio.
De Blasio. I thought De Blasio was bad.
Blasio.
Oh my God, this guy makes De Blasio look like J.D. Rockefeller.
Republican. Yeah.
I mean, it's just
He wants to unfund the police. I think Governor DeSantis, and we'll actually show a clip of this of DeSantis begging NYPD people to come to Florida.
yeah,
And so, I mean, because, there's no police use if that guy becomes a mayor. He's not going to fund them. He's going to treat them like crap. He's going to treat them as, horrible, horrible government workers.
he wants to ban all guns. Well, that's a New York thing. He wants to open up city-run retail stores for like food and stuff like that. And I'm like, why on earth would you have? How can you call yourself a market-based economy when you want to have the government running the store? What experience does the government have in efficiently running stores?
Or anything.
None.
Or anything efficiently, period, especially in New York.
You want to see how those stores are going to be run? Just step down into the subway.
It's kind of like in California. It's kind of like in California after the fires in California. I talked to a guy yesterday. He said a buddy of his in California had a very old house that was run down and old that burned down, and he was trying to get the permit to just clean out the site. The permit alone was $300,000 just for the permits, without the equipment, without the labor, without a shovel. Just the permit alone was 300 grand. And those are the kind of
let me put that in perspective for you. All right. I just picked up the permits for one of my apartment complexes. It's a $15.5 million project. We got like 86 units. The building permit for the entire complex was $66,000. And that guy's got a $300,000 permit for demo.
$1,500 house, a 1,500 square foot house.
Of a 1,500 square foot house. What the hell's going on with my camera here?
I know we have camera time going on.
Yeah, right. No, it's just trying to autofocus, and it's just autofocusing the wrong thing.
Yeah, autofocus on the face.
I know.
But yeah, I mean,
it's strange.
Weird. Anyway, but here, I mean, and it's all, people don't realize it all comes down to the politics of who's in charge. And you have socialist policies in charge. That's what you're going to get. And that kind of socialism in California, which is already embedded in New York, is going to get far worse if this guy becomes the mayor of New York City. I hope Eric Adams has a shot, as an independent.
It's interesting. How bad is the guy when the New York Democrats are calling him a communist? I mean, come on.
And
I mean, the most conservative guy in New York can scarcely be called a conservative.
I know the guy from the Knights of Columbus, I think Curtis, I forget his last name. He's a Republican running for mayor. And so he's on Sean Hannity quite a bit. I think he's fairly conservative, but he's with the with some sort of like a conservative gang group in New York City.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I should qualify that by saying that the most conservative electable person there ain't conservative.
Okay, electable. Yeah, I have no idea how electable this guy is. I think he's ran quite a few times.
Probably, and honestly, I don't know. I don't know how just how the electable any of them are, but we may wind up with a Republican guy. I don't know. You see, it really just depends on how much this guy has alienated people. The problem with people who are in the opposition party is very often they don't even try to run a winning campaign. They just try to put issues out, and that's their actual job. When you have no chance of winning, you got to build your party by throwing out some red meat kind of issues, and
Exactly.
hopefully you can start accumulating people, but that doesn't make you very electable. So I don't know. But if this guy doesn't win, then it's not going to be because they're voting for the other guy. It's going to be because they're voting against this guy.
Yeah, and I don't really see New York going that socialist. I mean, I know the Democrat Party is the majority party there, but I don't know this. I have no idea with how much exposure this guy's going to have now compared to how much he had in the primary.
I don't know. And Adams is going to try to run as an independent. He may wind up being the first independent governor of New York,
Yeah, Mayor.
the
Yeah,
mayor of New
yeah,
York.
Mayor. Yeah, and Giuliani's kid, I think, is going to run, isn't he? So I said Giuliani's son might run.
They're talking about a lot, but they've tied Giuliani. They demonize Giuliani as a Trump guy for so much. It's going to be hard to get anyone with that's even that lives two doors down from him for elected to anything.
No.
I'm just saying it's going to be tough. I don't say it's important. It's impossible, but I
Yeah.
think it's going to be. It's an uphill battle because they're so used to. I mean, the average voter just wants someone to from their party to tell them how to think, and then they're going to go out and then play for their team, and that's all.
Right.
I mean, for these guys, the damn election is more like the NFL draft.
The NFL draft's going to be fun this year.
Probably so.
It probably will be. I mean, it's going to be. No, I mean, but back to this. I mean, it's the New York race is interesting. We have Tom. I guess what's his name? The guy from North
Yeah, tell
Carolina.
us. Yeah, Tom, tell us. Yeah.
I guess since he's quitting, he just went bombastic against the Republican Party and voted against the bill yesterday and in the Senate. Which and everybody's like, who cares? He's
Yeah,
leaving.
well, I got to be honest. I don't really get excited about any legislation. Good, even if it's legislation that I heavily agree with, because number one, you got to see how it's actually going to get executed.
Exactly.
When they actually do it, when they actually start enforcing this law, and most of them, most legislation, requires some administrative rule changes too, and you really don't know what the law is going to be until you get the administrative rule changes to go with it.
Exactly. That's what a lot of people don't really realize that they always think that what they're reading in the media is what's going to happen.
Oh, of course, yes. It's the
After it
name
goes
of
through
the
this,
bill.
exactly. I mean, watching sausage being made or hot dogs being made is far cleaner than
Yeah.
watching a bill being passed or
My
created,
God.
implemented, and put on the floor and put on the street.
I mean, some of the stuff I've seen representatives have to swallow just so they can get their bill passed, so they can have some modicum of success and chance of getting, reelected is just astounding.
I mean, in the House, I mean, they're running for reelection every 2 years. The Senate, they run every 6 years, and so they're not in really, unless the guys are up for reelection, they're not in a really big hurry to move mountains or anything for Trump.
Well, yeah, that little video we watched the other day, the Jennifer Lawrence video, she did point out something very, very, and this is why I liked the video. Even though the organization that produced the video was just a bunch of Trump hating con artists, but the video did have one good point, and that's that regardless of how the people, what the polling says, what the people's views on an issue are, barely 30% of the time does it have any level of impact on whether or not a law gets passed.
Exactly.
If you're not one of the people directly in DC whispering in these guys' ears, chances of what you want to happen and what actually happens ever meeting
That
Good
is
luck.
true. Yeah, and that's one part of the video that I really did agree with is that all these polls and all this public swelling of, affirmation or condemnation or whatever it is, they look at it, they say thank you. Unless you come to them and visit them at dinner, like a lot of Democrats do to Republicans, and join them at restaurants or follow them to their cars and harass them, they really don't care.
Only thing, the absolute only thing that the elected guys care about when it comes to voters and polls and stuff like that is identifying which thing they can fundraise off of. Oh, this is polling really well. I should take this
Exactly.
position in here. And they'll take some outrageous position either for or against it and
Right.
then just start ringing the cash register because that's what they do.
It's like everybody's upset with Elon Musk and everything here. He took off, and everybody was talking about, he is getting all this government money, subsidies, and he said, "Take all the subsidies. I don't care." I mean, he said, "Cut them." You know, I mean, the whole point here is that people keep wanting to find their little puppet they want to keep beating up, and they all do it for fundraising, and that's it. I mean, the Democrats loved Elon Musk a few years ago.
He was saving the planet, remember?
He's an environmentalist, saving the planet, a culture warrior.
Tim Pool, I just heard a little clip of him pointing out that that this isn't Republicans. Elon Musk, Democrat. Tim Pool, Democrat. Donald Trump, Democrat. All these guys, were Democrats, and the Democrat Party just moved away from them.
Yeah,
Bill Maher even says it's just they haven't gone far enough to the left for him yet. They've gone far enough to the left for him to not say he's a Democrat anymore, but not so far that he's willing to say he's a Republican.
right, exactly. I mean,
But give him
and
time.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and I do think I see. I mean, there's a new movement and the Democrat Party to stop this other movement of going too far to the left. There's a new movement I think that's being started up by a lot of the younger guys in the party who realize, hey guys, we're getting our asses kicked this way.
Well,
I
you would
mean,
you would hope that that's what it is, but the
yeah, I hope
reality
so.
is it's the fundraisers who are realizing that that these narratives are at a point of diminishing returns, and if you really want to start making money, then we're going to have to go and adopt something to the right of the
Right.
people that that they're doing. And that's what they're going to do. And they're going to make a killing off of that too, because they're not doing it for the benefit of the country. They're doing it for the benefit of themselves.
I mean, in all reality, both parties need to calm down. I
Absolutely.
mean, the Republican Party has its own factions in it where the extreme right is scaring the hell out of the moderates and the
My
left wing of the
God,
party.
so many of I hear so many of my Republican brothers talking about, just spewing, these dumb, talking points. They're not even hateful. They're just dumb. Talking about conspiracies and look, I see a lot of conspiracies. I see a lot of things where I can connect the dot here to here to here to here. I understand what's happening, but there's a lot of these things like even our Republicans talking about how you've got these people that are trying to make the United States subservient to the UN, and I'm sure that there are people out there with that with that mindset.
Who says that still?
But having any sort of success doing it, they say all kinds of stuff. And then when I point out
Jesus.
that it's incredibly unlikely for stuff like that to happen, then they just paint me as naive, and off you go. I'm like, look, dude, I'm the farthest from naive
Yeah,
of anyone that you know, because I have been there.
exactly. I mean, the whole idea of the Republican Party or the America becoming subservient to the UN or the New World Order or any kind of concept like that is totally
It's right.
ridiculous.
It's right
We
up
are the
there.
superpower, baby.
It's right there with the suggestion that Donald Trump works for Vladimir Putin. I mean, really? You think the president of a country that has nothing, a giant, vast wasteland? I mean, they did have some money, but we've sanctioned them to death. Exactly what is Putin going to pay Donald Trump with?
Putin actually personally is wealthy, but his country's broke.
Yeah, well, the entire country of Russia, the entire economy of Russia would fit inside New York City. So, I mean, Donald Trump would have better luck kissing up to the mayor of New York and the mayor of Los Angeles. Boy, he could get some real money then.
Exactly. I mean, the whole idea here that we are doing anything for Russia is totally ridiculous. They are definitely the enemy. But the thing is, you just don't pop off and start shooting and killing. I mean, there are proper ways of diplomacy and legislating everything and going to war is a lot bigger than people realize. I mean, they have no idea what's behind the curtain.
Bugs me to
I mean,
listen to this
you do
stupid.
you do like some sort of assassination of Putin. You have no idea who's behind him is even worse.
Right.
Who might have a lot of fun with nuclear, Russian roulette, part of the pun.
There you go, Russian roulette.
But the whole point here is that people don't know until they know, and you have to trust the intel department. You have to trust intelligence and everything else, and that's why we have this department. So you don't go off half cocked and start, saying things that you shouldn't be saying to different leaders. Trump, granted, is a half cocked guy, but
Absolutely.
he also knows what he's saying, and he knows he can back it up. I mean, I like what he said last week. He was getting on the plane about the Middle Eastern, about Netanyahu and Iran. He says these are two countries who've been arguing for so long they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. They're
Absolutely.
just they're just fighting.
And then he bombs the crap out of their nuclear facilities. And then people said, "Oh, he hardly damaged the place. They're going to build them back in a few months." Well, I hate to tell you, but what Trump did was he damaged those things to the point that he doesn't have to send a flight of B-2s over there anymore.
Exactly.
He can, drop an Arleigh Burke class destroyer off the coast, throw off about 60 well, not 60, I'm Arleigh Burke's not going to carry that, but a dozen or so cruise missiles, and then take out the whole thing again. So what he's done, he's made it so that the only work that they can do is going to be on the surface, because you got to focus on cleaning up the surface before you can get anywhere near underground. We're just going to sit there and cruise missile them. Every time they try to do it, we just knock it right back down until they get tired of putting them together.
Well, people don't know how war really works. You see all these TV shows and
They don't
movies.
want no. The people that are critics don't care what it's like.
They don't care.
They care about what they can make people believe.
Exactly. And I just want to ring the cash register. I make them believe one thing or the other. I mean, I know I hate we keep going back to money. Everything people don't realize this, and this is the first thing I was told my first political campaign class is money is a mother's milk of politics.
Yes, it is.
Okay, without money, nothing ever happens.
You can't do a
Nothing.
damn thing.
And so yes, everything does come back to the Benjamin Franklins. It is all about the Benjamins. It's all about the little Abraham Lincolns on the copper penny that we don't even make anymore because I guess we have no more pennies
I was
because
gonna
we're
say,
not making pennies out there.
have we officially
I
discontinued
think we
that?
officially stopped it. Yeah.
I know we were going to. I know we were scheduled to. I just don't know if we've hit the date that we were scheduled to.
I don't know if we hit the date or not, but I have not seen very many pennies around lately. I get my
And the
change.
last time I was carrying change around, period. But here's how you're going to know when they're really gone. You'll know they're really gone when you stop seeing prices in 99.
That's very true.
Because when there's no way to make the 99 cents, then it's going to be 95 cents.
I
Which means
just
Costco's going to have to come up with a new system.
get that nickel, break it up in pieces, and
Well,
shivvy it out.
they did used to cut pieces of 8. Just cut doubloons into 8 pieces. That's what a piece of 8 was. It was a doubloon cut into 8 pieces. Yeah,
I didn't know
it's
that.
a piece of 8.
Learn something new every day.
If you look at the design, I think on the back side of the doubloon, the artwork is structured in such a way that it actually makes it easy to cut.
Pretty cool. So, what do you think of the alligator Alcatraz opened up today?
My initial thought about that was, I grew up around alligators.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I mean, they're not that big of a deal. I mean, it's not that big of a deal to stay away from them as long as you don't cut them off from the water and you don't keep, get near their babies. Generally, they're not going to mess with you because alligators tend to be shy. People from South America, well, that's okay.
I think
Now,
that
to be fair, they were city boys, so
right.
maybe the country boys like me, the Spanish country boys like me would have been, or my equivalent would be like, yeah, yeah,
Just
so
walking their
what?
heads.
Yeah, so what?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole idea, I guess, Representative, or I guess Homeland Secretary Christine Noem was talking about it's a state of the art facility. It's in Ocheepee or Ochopee, Florida, down there in the Everglade area, and they got air conditioning. It's actually one a nicer facility than the state prisons or the county jails. So it's actually one of the nicer incarceration facilities in Florida.
But I don't care if it's the shittiest places they've conceived of places. We're not putting, the people we're putting in there. It's supposed to be unpleasant.
Sure, yeah,
When they're promoting this idea of sending people to Sudan, they're not doing it because they want to send people to Sudan. They're doing it because they want people to say, if you don't leave, we're going to send you to Sudan.
exactly. So think about it.
So load up on the same bus you rode up in and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I guess we're down to 282 crossings a day now.
So, all these people that are talking about, oh, they're deporting these people who have never committed a crime. I said, well, they committed one crime. And I don't know why they can't get that through their heads.
I
It
don't
is
know.
not legal to cross the border at any place other than a designated border crossing area. And if you do, you're breaking the law.
Correct. But hey, people are
That's what you
learning the
call,
law every day.
yeah, that's what you call willful ignorance.
Willful ignorance. I was actually surprised when I saw Sunday morning a CNN commentary about the president in the last 15 days, saying that he did remarkably the best the last 15 days of any president in the last 40 years. I was surprised that came out of CNN. We're talking about they said they didn't really agree with his approach, but the results of everything he's done
You cannot argue with
is
with
not
his results
arguable
for sure.
because the thing with Iran, him bombing Iran,
Mhm,
the G7 summit,
mhm.
and Europe was basically bowing to him. His negotiations with China, as far as the trade deal goes, and India, as far as the trade
In
deal goes,
Canada.
and Canada as well. In fact, manufacturing income had the highest rate of increase,
Mhm.
a wage increase, for the first time in almost 50 years. There's almost a 3% increase in wages for manufacturing jobs. The amount of jobs that
Because every time they add a new factory and they have to keep adding them, then there's more competition for factory workers.
exactly, and inflation actually right now is even lower than ever expected, especially compared to the 9.1 inflation rate of the Biden years, where I think around like I think 3.9 or 8.4 something. I don't know, but it's very low comparatively.
I'll hit you with a story that I heard today that I was incredibly enlightening when you think about manufacturing. So in China, they spent, per person 5 times what we spent on training factory workers and factory training programs. All right. Who do you think paid for that?
America, Apple.
Yeah. The manufacturer, the company that did the manufacture spent 5 times what we spend training workers here in China.
That might be why they're so eager to start building in America now.
Exactly. Because I mean, what they got to understand, and this blows my mind. Why Apple? I mean, how many companies have to have, their have to go out, train a workforce, and once they're fully trained and running smoothly, watch as half of them quit and go work at a competitor who used to be your partner. And at least if that were to happen in the United States, you'd have some legal recourse. In China, it's kick rocks, dude. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. It's so bizarre, but I mean, the whole idea here is that, you know, part of the whole MAGA movement, except for all the extremities and everything else that's been taken away and all the smearing that's happened to it, the whole idea was to make America great again. And the whole concept here is to start making jobs and bringing everything back home to America, to where everything is made in America and to where people can survive to take care of their families and have enough income to take care. I mean, all these here offshoots of this and that and all the distractions that have been created by the media and by the liberals and by other Republicans and even by Trump, by everybody who's actually distorted the entire concept of the movement. They just need to take a deep breath and get back to where it started. It's about, helping our fellow neighbor and make sure everybody has better jobs and a safe area to live.
Well, all I gotta say is that people need to take a breath and understand that this is a process. The world, the United States didn't get screwed up in 6 months, and we're not going to fix it in 6 months. And some of the things that we're going to do are not going to work. But on balance, most of the steps we're making right now are having very positive impacts. Like I always say, fleas come with a dog. If you
Exactly.
want,
And the dog we have was being driven by AutoPen for the last 4 years. I mean, we really have no idea who's really even running the country. And in all reality, we have no freaking idea who was in charge.
that that dog's got fleas, ticks, parvo,
Sugar,
chiggers, whatever.
bed bugs, the
I
whole
mean,
thing.
distemper. I mean, that that dog's ate up.
Rabies, diabetes, cancer. I mean, the
Whatever.
whole thing. That dog needs to be
Hip
hit.
dysplasia. I mean, that dog was ate up.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how. And the Democrat Party is even starting to look. They have Agenda 29 coming out now, which is interesting because they're making fun of Republicans. Agenda 25. Now they got their own agenda. So it's called Agenda 29. And
Well, all we got to say is, boy, that sounds a whole lot like Agenda 2025. So, must be the same thing.
must
I'm
be.
not gonna, I'm not gonna give you any examples of it, but it's exactly the same thing.
I think the only sane people left in that party are Carville and Begala and the original guys for that Clinton.
It's a handful. It is a small handful.
You want to return it back to people first.
But, say la vie.
Yeah, c'est la vie. We're gonna go ahead and I think call it quits here for tonight. We're gonna have a little shorter segment tonight.
Off we go.
Yes, off we go.
Yeah, absolutely. But like and subscribe here, and you can keep getting more and more of this. And if you can't do anything else, just make fun of us in the comments.
Exactly.
As long as we're entertaining, I don't care if you agree with me or just like to mock me. Just keep on watching.
Fun.
All right, you guys have a good night. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye bye. Where's my little pub?